Welcome everyone to our panel discussion, Dating with a Difference. I'm Erica Mossholder, the Executive Director of Children's Craniofacial Association. And we are so excited to have all of you here, and we look forward to a productive, meaningful conversation. I want to thank you all for joining us, and especially the Many Faces of Moebius Syndrome for co-hosting this event with ccakids. I have a few things I'd like to ask of you all. First, feel free for our audience to remain on camera. We will have questions at the end, and a host will unmute you if you would like to ask your question via voice and video. If you are not comfortable asking your question out loud, please type your question in the comment box. And if you would like to ask your question privately, please private chat 𝐂𝐧𝐤 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐧, and she will be the only person available to see your chat. This is where it gets tricky. We do have a disclaimer. I want to let everyone know that adult topics will be discussed, so viewer discretion is advised. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this panel belong solely to the speakers and not necessarily to the Children's Craniofacial Association, the Many Faces of Moebius Syndrome, the speakers themselves, employers, organizations, committees, or other groups or individuals. And now, without further ado, I will introduce our wonderful panel that we have with us tonight. Our moderator is Will Harrison. Will is a social worker in Southeast Michigan working with adults with disabilities. He himself has Moebius syndrome and serves on the Many Faces of Moebius Syndrome board. He's been married to his wife, Heather, for 14 years, and they have 5 kids. Tim Smith is the president of the Many Faces of Moebius Syndrome Foundation, and you can find out more at mfoms.org. Kara Jackman is a college librarian by day and CCA's marketing and communications coordinator by night. She loves writing, poetry, tennis, and the outdoors. Chelsea Buyalos currently resides in Baltimore, Maryland, and is a classical singer, music educator, and craniofacial advocate. When she's not working, Chelsea always remembers to embrace her own uniqueness while looking for Mr. Right. And Jono Lancaster is joining us in the middle of the night, all the way from West Yorkshire, UK, spreading a little bit of love to the world while trying to keep in shape. His charity is Love Me, Love My Face Foundation. You can find him on social media at Love My Face. We've already gone through our disclaimer. So we're going to go through this in segments, pardon me. And each of the 4 sections where Will ask different questions to our panelists. Each section will last between 5 and 15 minutes. Then we'll wrap up with a 15-minute Q&A. Please be sure to send us your questions via the chat. And finally, when we are out of time, Will close us out. Thank you again for attending, and we will post this recording to our outlets in a few days after we close tonight. So without delay, Will, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. This first section is called How to Meet Someone, and this first question is for everyone. Do you use online dating? And if you do, which app do you use?
I'll start it off and say POF.com.
Hi. I've used all of them over the course of my life, pretty much for different reasons. So right now I'm using, or I have used recently, Bumble, Tinder, on the phone, and then OkCupid, which I really like, and I'm going to talk more about in a second. Thanks.
Okay, for those of you who said no, can you describe how you like to meet people, or how you have met people in the past?
Well, for me, I have used online sources over the years, but I kind of turn them on and turn them back off and turn them back on. So for me, I've kind of just where I'm at currently, I kind of just meet people organically. And it's worked in most cases, but when it hasn't, that's when you go for another resource. So I've definitely just tried to give over to that process and allow things to happen organically when I put myself out there and try to meet someone.
So thank you.
For myself, I have used online dating apps, depending on what stage of my life or my thought process was going. Tinder was very short term, and then the matchmaking websites that you paid for were a little bit more for serious purposes. But at the moment, I've deleted them all because I found them quite stressful, quite shallow, and as Chelsea's just said, I definitely really get a lot more from meeting people organically.
Sarah, can you describe and can you set up for us what a thorough profile would look like?
Yes, I'd love to. Are you, Erica, are you going to do a screen share, or should I? So I, as I said, I use, much like Jono said, I use, over the years, I've used them for varying purposes. So, you know, your Tinders and your Bumbles are kind of for your fun, and for sport, if you will. To some extent, way back in the day, this is 10 or 15 years ago, I kind of viewed Plenty of Fish like that too. It was really efficacious in that particular thing. I looked at eHarmony and I liked what they did. I thought it was a little too laborious though. For me, that was for me. So, and that's very different than say like a Bumble or a Tinder. So what I like about Bumble is that I feel like the woman can make the first like swipe, move, whatever, and the only people she's I think are interacting with, or the app will allow you to interact with, are men that are interested, or the other significant other that you're interested in. I don't want to be biased or you know, not let other, you know, kinds of relationships be heard and seen in this presentation either. So with the app, the front end looks a lot like the image on the left, and then on the right there's the back end of where you enter the images of yourself. I like to have one that's of, you know, your full body, but mostly of your face, and some things you like too sometimes. And then I just keep that short. I keep the description and the profile. I try to keep it short, snappy, fun, light, and I hope through those apps that we have, my goal is always to have conversation and then to move forward. Next slide. So it's just those are just a starting point. So that's how I feel about kind of Bumble. I like it. It's a great app. If you're a woman, I think it's exceptional. And then the other one I really like is OkCupid. They've really become I've had great luck with it. It's really great interface. They allow you to add and subtract. They ask you questions and match you with people that like have answered those questions in similar ways. This is a far more robust profile though. This is more really truly explaining a lot more about yourself. So at the beginning there's a short self summary, and you can tell a little bit about yourself. If you're a great writer, this is a great spot for you to shine. If you're not, please ask for help, because people like me would love to help you. And then I've read other ones and I'm like, oh my God, this is so well written. And I'm like, you know, just blown away. And then in this, on the right side section, I go into like, it asks you what you're looking for, and I just lay it all out. I say what I want. I can't see the screen right now, so forgive me, but I write down exactly what I want. If you could do the next slide, that would be great, thanks. And then I go into like what's important to me, like in finding a partner. what I also like to infuse some humor because that's who I am. I'm funny. I like to be silly. I like to have fun. So to make sure that I have fun with it, like I listed out a laundry list of demands, and I was like, are you still there? Are you still breathing? Because if you are, that's a lot of demands. And then I go in with more humor, and I also kind of like keep it real. Like I make sure that people understand that I am serious, but I am funny and fun. And I think trying to infuse some of who you are in there is so, so important, like as a person. It's one thing to write it, and it's another thing to kind of leave it. So next slide. And then I kind of end with a meaningful but silly kind of comment, because I think that's important to me. So I think I said I really love sports. I wrote sports for a while, and sports have been my life. So really want somebody that's interested in Boston sports. So I say, will you be my weight bucks, 1980s era, and John Havlicek or Bobby Orr. And so it's really, that was important to me because I kind of like laid out, those were the big guys when I was young. And so that I meet someone that's around my age or knows those people, that's important. And then I also state that I don't want kids, because I don't, period, end of sentence. But I'm okay with like a 10-year-old or something. Like I'm willing to negotiate on that, so long as, again, I'm stating what I want, but I'm negotiating kind of what is a rather tough topic, especially if the men I'm interested in have children. And then there are elective boxes, and you can choose, like with travel, I love, love, love travel. So I had to put in, like, if $1 million fell into your lap, what would you do? What would your vacation itinerary be? Well, that would be it. Barcelona, Madrid, Portugal, Northern Italy, and Croatia. And then next slide, just to finish this out. I'm sorry, this is taking forever. And then another elective question was, which was another opportunity to be funny and to show off a skill that you might have, or just to be silly. For me, I'm a terrible cook. I own it. I know it. I'm trying to work on it. But they ask what meal you always set the fire alarm off with, and for me, it's always chicken because I only eat chicken, and I'm terrible at cooking it. So I call it Kara smoky chicken, so I kind of, again, go in there to have a laugh, to be funny, to keep it light but keep it real. That's always my goal. That's my goal with everything, to work hard and have a good time. So I want that to be the same, and the same is true with the profiles that I write. So I think that was the last slide. Correct me if I'm wrong, Erica. Yep. Thank you.
Cara, with OkCupid, is this the one where you can, right at the beginning, set out whether you're looking for something casual, long term, and if you're already in a relationship and you're a partner?
Right. So a lot of them do that. So like OkCupid definitely does that. Tinder does that for sure. And I think to some extent Bumble does as well. I can't tell you how many couples I come across, like, not interested in that third person. So yeah, you can definitely state, and most of them in the United States anyways will say who you're interested in and what kind of relationship you're interested in as well, which is very important to be clear about. Thank you for bringing that up, Jono.
No, and I also found OkCupid to be very diverse. Sexuality, exploration, there was a lot of openness on OkCupid. Yes.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, and there is. So there's a lot of weeding that has to happen. I had really great luck with it in 2007, so that was a long time ago. I haven't recently had any positive, but yeah. I like the way they do their profiles. I'm not sure I love the platform, but I like what they do with their profiles. So.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. This next question is for everyone on the panel. And the question is, how do you meet someone during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Honestly, I haven't tried dating during the pandemic. Right now, the numbers are just going up. so I still talk to people, but I haven't met anybody, haven't tried to.
I've kind of same with Tim. I haven't really put myself out there, especially during COVID era right now. I would love to go back to BC before COVID. I definitely would. But I have taken part in some of the local bars in my area, even though they've got, some not strict lockdown, but they're policing, what they've got going on in their establishments. We've got, curfews in terms of what they can do, but they have offered up opportunities to do like a Zoom happy hour type thing or a trivia night where you can sign up and take part. And I've definitely met some really interesting people and people that I would, want to interact with in normal times in person. So yeah, I've definitely met some people in the breakout rooms when it's come to stuff like that, but not actively searching out any relationships right now, just considering the circumstances, but have gotten to meet some pretty amazing people that once all of this is over, I hope to meet in person, and we've stayed in contact.
I've been on one date in July, and that was like right after like we kind of came out of more things were opening up. It was shortly, like a week or two after some of the restaurants opened up and had spaces outside. I sat outside. It was fine. I had a meal. I was not willing to sit inside, and I would not be willing to sit inside until there's a vaccine, to be quite frank. So that actually went well. Wore a mask, went to the bathroom, wore a mask, wore a mask to the table, make sure I wore my mask when the person, when the server came. It was more or less fine. It wasn't, it didn't bother either me or the person that I was with. So, I think just being respectful of the guidelines and the servers and all that kind of stuff. It's actually a great way to see how people treat people in the service industry. I like to know how you're gonna, how you treat your waitress and your bartenders, how you treat everyone. So yeah.
Okay, so for me, the UK is in a full lockdown at the moment. So socializing is practically a no-go. We're not allowed to mix in our homes, in gardens. And then when it comes to dating, or even in relationships, right now is a brilliant time to meet somebody, because if there is chemistry, if there is a spark and you can't actually get close, it's going to kind of weed out the people who just want sex or who are just going to use you. And those people who you connect with during COVID and during tough conditions, they're going to be pretty keen to get to know you. So Saturday just gone, I had a date in it's 6 p.m. in UK time. It's raining, it's dark, and me and this girl ordered a takeaway, Chinese, and we sat in the park in the rain, like a proper dirty chair, stool, what have you, and we had Chinese, socially distanced. And again, it were two people that wanted to get to know each other. Whereas if that other person wasn't really into it, they're not going to sit in the rain, eat Chinese with me. So I know it's difficult, and I would never ever force an issue. But this situation just happened to present itself. And yeah, it was definitely one that laid a massive smile on my face.
Awesome. Those are all really great answers. This next question is for Tim. Tim, how do you talk about when you disclose the differences up front? How do you determine when you disclose the differences?
Well, it's like Jono mentioned earlier, online dating apps are very stressful. So when I first started dating a long time ago, I was trying to find someone who would appreciate me for my inner beauty and my outer beauty. Someone who would want to share their life with me. I have learned through trial and error and a lot of it, as far as that goes, that the best way to make this happen is by being upfront, by telling people who I am. 20 years ago, when I started dating online on Yahoo Personals, I didn't know the name of my condition. I just told people I had a speech problem and couldn't move my eyes from side to side. I kind of treated dating like it was an interview. I tried to sell myself by talking about my strengths and my skills and not so much my looks and my speech. That's okay for a job interview, but it doesn't really work in dating because I found out that people wanted to see, the whole picture. So as time progressed, I began to integrate more and more about my condition into my profile. And now on my current PLF profile, I actually have an animated video called Choose Kind that I made so people can, get to know me a little bit better. And I actually get fewer requests to talk by doing it this way. But at least the people who are reaching out to me, I know that they are willing to accept me for my face value. So for me, that's a great start.
Chelsea, can you talk about being in a space to be ready to meet others for dating?
Sure. Well, the thing is that this is definitely something that is unique to each of us, right? And for me personally, in order for me to expect somebody to accept me for who I am, I have to be willing to take a hard look in the mirror and accept myself first. So, and we all have had experiences where we talk about our acceptance and the acceptance of others and things of that nature. So I think when I am in a posture of being receptive and open to putting myself out there, it's just I have to do the behind the scenes work and the more internal work of knowing my own acceptance and being able to walk that walk and talk that talk too. And I think that's the first step. Is taking the time to look at you and look at the energy that you bring to the table and that you put out into the world, that you would put into a relationship. And I'm not just talking like romantic relationships, but just in general, the kind of energy that you put out into the world that people consume in whatever way, professionally, personally, relationships, all of that. So that would be, I think, the first step is working your way to a posture where you have accepted yourself and you are willing to put that out for others to take in and accept and want to be a part of. So that's where I would stay with that. And again, it's with relationships, especially for women, I think, and I can only speak to that, but we have a social construct that we are on a timetable, right? And you can't let that timetable rule your choices and how you flow in this world. So I think making sure that you do the hard work, the grit work on yourself first, and make sure that you know yourself really well. I think that will set you up for success and when you want to enter into a relationship, or at least try to enter into a relationship, you'll be on better footing when you get there.
Awesome.
Chelsea, I think that you just worded that perfectly. One of my first relationships when I was 16, I absolutely hated myself. I hated my face and I hated everything about my life, and I was very angry about it. I found myself in a relationship where she was very abusive towards me, and I put up with it because I hated myself, and almost I kind of felt like this is the sort of relationship that I deserved. I'm now 35, so 17 years later, I've gone from hating who I was to loving who I am and embracing who I am. And the relationships that I've had in the past 5, 10 years even, they've just got more powerful, more meaningful. The connections have been deeper, not just relationships, like you said, friendships, work opportunities, social things. The more acceptance that I had and love I had and respect that I had for myself, those relationships in all aspects of life just became so much more meaningful. So I thought you worded that perfectly. That's something that really sits with me too. Sorry, Will.
Oh, no, you're fine. This last question is actually for you, Jono. Can you talk about how you determine what people are looking for, especially online?
Say that again. What am I looking for online?
How do you determine what people are looking for online?
So again, online or face to face, I'm 35. No, I'm 36. And so for me, I'm done with time wasters. I really, really appreciate honesty. If you want just sex, then just say that. If you want friendship, just say that. If you're looking to explore something deeper, then say that. Honesty is the key. And when I'm having conversations with those people, I'm seeking out that information. If I'm using an online app, that information's usually there. But if I am meeting somebody, I'm definitely having those conversations. And I know sometimes we overthink and like, oh, am I coming on too strong? Am I being too easy, or too desperate? And you're thinking about it all the time, but have those conversations. And if those answers that you're getting back aren't you're not feeling them, then walk away.
Thank you, guys. Our next section goes to how to reject and handle rejection. And our first question goes to Tim. Tim, what do you say if you ask someone out online and they say no?
Well, I guess my first question, Will, is why in the world would someone say no to me? I think it's important to try to get to know someone first before you ask them out. So I try to find some things that we have in common. To give an example would be, let's say we both like going to antique shops. I'll start talking about an antique shop that I know about and saying how much fun it will be for her and I to go out there together. If she comes back with a positive response, then I'll ask her out. But if she doesn't, I can pretty much figure out she's going to say no. But once somebody has said no, to me, no is no, and it's time to move on, because if you push it, you just make the situation worse. After they say no, I try to look back and see what I did wrong, if there was something I did wrong, and then I'll try to apply it to the next situation. But unfortunately, when people say no, when we get rejected, we don't always find out why. That's just the way life works.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. The next question goes to Juno. Jono, can you tell me, how do you handle it if you're talking to someone for a while and then they go quiet, or they ghost you?
Oh, mate, ghosting is like the worst when it comes to relationship and people ghosting or just going cold. And I think that's just the worst, most horrible thing. But just quickly on Tim's point, people are going to say no, and that is perfectly okay. Hell, Brad Pitt, Zac Efron, they would have asked girls out. They might have even asked boys out on a date, and they would have been rejected. And so rejection and people saying no, that is okay. It's really important to not take it too personally. And again, when it comes to ghosting, if people go quiet on you and they start ghosting you, that is a communication to you that they are not interested. So I know you're going to be drawn to them, or you're going to feel a pull. There might be an attraction. It's like, oh yeah, but they're talking to me now. Ghosting is a form of communication, and they're saying, hey, I'm not into this. They may give you some explanation, and that's your call whether you believe it. They might be busy. They might be they might have been sick, whatever, and that's up to you whether to believe them or not. But when somebody ghosts you, I just think that's wrong. Anybody left wondering, I think that's so. If anybody's ghosting me, I'm out of there.
Can I touch on Juno's point real quick? I think he has an excellent answer, but you know, when you're ghosted, people go quiet. Your heart wants you to think one thing, but your mind thinks another thing. And I think it's really important that we kind of read the signs that are going on, because for me anyway, when somebody goes quiet, you know, that's pretty much means it's over.
Absolutely. I think those are good points. The next question is for Kara. Kara, when it comes to flirting, how do you pull away if you sense the person is not reciprocating?
And that's a tough one. I think I'm always like interested. I love to flirt. So, I mean, I'll flirt with anyone, anything. So it's fun for me, but obviously if it's not being reciprocated, I want to be respectful of that person and of their time. And if it's clear that they're not interested, then I will go and take my talent somewhere else. Like say we're out at during normal times out in a restaurant or a bar, I would just move on to another person, or I would go dance, or I would go find something else to do. I think during these, times, I think a lot of people where socially distancing and trying not to be with others so much. I think a lot more of what's going to happen is what Jono spoke about. But I think it's just trying to, lean in when you feel like things are going well, and step back when things are not being reciprocated, as the question said. I think it's just knowing like, oh, this isn't a great fit, or you may be bored. I mean, especially if you're putting a lot of energy into what you're saying and how you're trying to come off and be fun and flirty. I mean, it's just, it becomes, if it becomes and feels like work, then maybe time to move on to someone else.
Absolutely.
I think with the flirting though thing, if somebody's flirting with me, I could not read that whatsoever. And I'm like, is this person really, why would they flirt with me, sort of thing? And I'm terrible at reading flirting. And I'm also actually terrible at flirting as well. So flirting's a tough one. And also a lot of people use that as communication. And a lot of people do just have flirtatious personalities as well. Flirting's definitely a tough one.
It is. It's hard, and it is almost like it is a communication device, and it is like a kind of almost like a language in and of itself. That's also a regional thing too. Like in Boston, like we're very sarcastic and like flirty, and the girls are that way. So I don't know if it's that, or if it's just, I don't know, it's just me, but yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Chelsea, talk to us about being the rejecter. How do you know when it's best to end it with another person, and why is it important? Why is that important?
Before I answer that, Kara, I'm coming for you to get some like flirting tips, because just like Jono, I can't read the signs. I've been in a situation where my friend's like, he likes you, right? I was like, really? So I'm coming for you for some tips on that. Well, it's kind of been talked about a little bit as we've worked our way around to this question. And the thing is that rejection is a two-way street. We have all had our personal experiences of being the person who has been rejected, right? In whatever form that is, ghosting or saying, I don't want the flirting or what have you. But also you can be the rejecter too. There have been several situations in my life where I have had to be that person to say, you know what, time to go. And regardless, even if it was really good, you start to notice behaviors, little things. And I'm not talking about like someone chewing with their mouth open or not picking up their laundry. I'm not talking about stuff like that, but little things that come up. As an example, from a long time ago, just negative talk all the time, negative energy. Everything in the world is wrong. I could only do so much to help this person, right? I would make sure I was available to talk. I would try to put different spins on things, and it just became, but also you can be the rejecter too. There have been several situations in my life where I have had to be that person to say, you know what, time to go. And regardless, even if it was really good, you start to notice behaviors, little things. And I'm not talking about like someone chewing with their mouth open or not picking up their laundry. I'm not talking about stuff like that, but little things that come up. As an example, from a long time ago, just negative talk all the time, negative energy. Everything in the world is wrong. I could only do so much to help this person, right? I would make sure I was available to talk. I would try to put different spins on things, and it just became, yes, relationships are work, right? But it became a thing where the work wasn't being reciprocated, right? So I think in that instance, I had to, wave that white flag and say, you know what, I think we're better off with other people. And that took a lot for me, because as somebody who had been rejected in a variety of ways previous, I was like, wait, I'm on the other side of the table doing this now. So I think, and as people have mentioned in some of the questions previous, it's reading the signs, knowing your self-worth. That is very important. And also in some situations, and again, this is going into the darker side of dating and relationships, but abuse. It can come in a variety of ways. And you sometimes have to walk away. And in most cases, it's split amicably, and then others not. But you just have to know your worth, and you have to know when the signs are all there. And sometimes we make excuses, and sometimes we turn a blind eye, or we don't want to believe it because we're so invested to finding that person, right? So I think that's what it is. You have to know your worth and know what you bring to the relationship. And if all of those factors are there, great. Keep working with that relationship, because relationships are work, right? They have to be, you both have to be putting in the work. But when it becomes one-sided, or it's not moving forward or fruitful, that's when you have to make that decision, and you have to be the rejecter versus somebody who's rejected. Yeah.
Chelsea, I think, again, brilliantly put. When you find yourself ending a relationship, I think for me, one of the hardest things was seeing it through. The amount of times I've tried ending something, and then I've taken that person back, or we'll give it another try. And then I prolonged this poor girl's agony because I wasn't firm enough. And I think that's something I have had to work on, is ending a relationship and seeing it through, and not, I'll give them another chance, or it might be different this time. So I think that's really, really important.
It's hard too. It's very hard.
Yeah.
But just like with relationships, you have to do that personal work and be like, okay, am I spinning mud here? Is it moving forward? Is it fruitful for both of us? Yeah. And knowing when to pull that card and say, this is what it is. That it's hard. It definitely is.
Yeah. They're crying. They're trying to share happy memories with you, and then oh, am I making a mistake? You might even get some input from your friends, your mum or your dad, family, like, oh, she's a good one, she's a keeper. No, listen to, hear, and see it through. It is tough, but yeah, definitely see it through.
as hard as it is to let somebody go or to break up with them, and this might sound bad, but it's also, it's the growing experience. Because once you, I mean, if you've been rejected 100 times like I have, but you have a few opportunities where you have to let someone else go, you kind of understand what the other person was going through when they let you go. And like I said, you grow as a person, and I think that's what it's all about. Is life is about growing.
And it's also an opportunity to hone communication skills. I think we sometimes, oftentimes, and I'm sure there's many people on this call that are like, I think it, but do I say it? Or I think it, and if I say it, how is that going to, we hash that out over time. So having those experiences, like you said, you've got to put yourself out there and be on that other side of that table. It's not good, it's not fun, but you grow from it on either side. I think both parties grow from that kind of experience.
Absolutely. Jono, you talked about moving on to relationships. What are you using the purpose of people coming into your lives? What do you take with you?
I got sent this question the other day, and I thought about it, and I thought about it so much. I've been in relationships, and that person has felt like my best friend. And I've also, in that relationship as well, I thought they were the one. I thought this was my human that I got to keep forever. And we've ended up moving on. And it hurt and it crushed me. But the one thing that I took from it is that we shared so many incredible feelings, so many incredible memories. And growing up, I never thought I would have children. I would never get married or anything like that. But I met somebody, and all of a sudden I started having those feelings. And although I didn't have children and we didn't get married, it was amazing to actually have a relationship where I developed those feelings, and I know it's inside me. And going forward, I might not experience that again, but I have experienced it, and for a period of my life. And I've had good relationships, I've had amazing relationships, I've had bad relationships, but they've all added things to my life. And as Chelsea just said about learning to communicate, each relationship I've taken something from, and it's me, or I kind of evolved with it. And I'm a big believer, it's something that I wrote down, never forget anything that makes you smile. And I think of past relationships and I can't help but smile. And these people are still in my life, and I'm still able to have an incredible connection with them, and I'm very blessed to say that I still love these people, although that dynamic has changed. So relationships can end, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're out of your life. And again, that's another thing. Ending a relationship and maintaining a friendship, that's a whole new topic and conversation, but there's always something that you can take away. You learn from it and you take it on with you, like with any experience.
Tim, how do you feel a broken heart?
That's a very interesting question, and I want to answer this personally by something that happened to me. I was devastated after my first long-term relationship fell apart and she told me it was over. I did a lot of stuff, stupid stuff, thinking I could heal my broken heart by trying to fix the relationship, but I was wrong. I started moving forward when I finally learned to let go and channel all my energy and anxiety into something else. I focused my attention into learning more about Manyfacesofmoebiussyndrome and others who had it. I started by writing down my thoughts and hopes about it and posted them on MyFace, hoping others with my condition would read them. Ironically, it was my ex, who I had been with for 5 years, who discovered I had Moebius syndrome. I always thought I was alone with my condition. After I found out, I wanted to learn more about it and meet others. At the time, I hoped it was something that she and I could do together, but I never brought it up or really looked into it because there were so many other issues going on. Once I realized the split was final, I had plenty of time on my hands. People with Moebius syndrome responded to those MyFace posts. We moved to Facebook, and a few short years later, I started the Many Faces of Moebius syndrome. So to answer your question, the best way to heal a broken heart is by trying to turn a negative situation into a positive situation. This probably doesn't matter in the here and now, but by turning a negative into a positive, I was able to find peace within myself, take responsibility for everything I did wrong in the relationship, and mend my broken heart. I have no negative feelings towards my ex. In fact, I'm very thankful that she set me off on this journey. There's an old saying, when one door closes, a new one opens, and I've witnessed that personally.
Good. Can you talk to us about rebounds? What is their purpose, and how do we tread carefully on another person's hopes and heart? And how do we learn to process that?
Yes, rebounds kind of a professional, and it's really hard. And I think being very clear about expectations when you obviously you've at that point broken up with the person, so you want to be very clear about what you're, if you're going back to the person, about why and what it is that you're hoping to get out of the time that you have together. I think right now I'm kind of in the midst of that situation, that kind of a situation again, and it's been very trying. I've been nervous, I've been cautious, I've been a lot of things, and I've questioned myself, and he has questions, and there's just a lot of uncertainty and doubt that we're kind of living in right now. And so I'm trying to constantly figure out like where the boundaries are, and trying to make sure that no one gets hurt, but someone is going to get hurt. That is the end all and be all, unless of course something miraculous happens. And I'm I think rebounds have their place. I think we need to learn something. We're going back because we need to learn something about ourselves, about the other person, about whether that person has changed or is the same. It's all a process, and we're all works in process, and life is very messy. And I think, especially as a child growing up and a preteen and then a teenager, I watched a lot of movies, read every book I could get my hands on, and it was very like there was a formula. There was boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love, and then they live happily ever after. And that's not how it actually plays out. And so I'm trying to negotiate that uncertainty, and that I think one of the purposes of the rebounds is trying to understand patterns of behavior, and also it's a learning experience and trying to understand oneself and also the other person better. So that's the best that I can come up with right now, especially as I'm in the midst of what is a very, very murky situation, personally. Thanks.
Thank you, Kara. Chelsea, this next question is for you. Talk to us about having a wall up. How do you let someone in those walls? So how do you let those walls down, and how long does that usually take for you?
I don't know about you all, but my wall has taken well over 30 years to be put up. And I hope it doesn't take another 30 years to tear it down. This goes back, I think, to early years as a child. We put up walls. I know I personally have put up walls as a defense mechanism, not just in relationships, but, you know, issues with dealing with pain, surgeries, all that kind of stuff. I had a strategically placed wall that has been erected over the last couple decades. And, you know, I think we do that to protect ourselves. I know I personally do that to protect myself. I am a Capricorn, so I'm very bullheaded. And so that adds to the mix as well. So I'm very cognizant to, once I let someone past that drawbridge into my walls, into my, I guess you could call it inner sanctum, I don't know. Once you let somebody in, you have to embrace them. And so I look at it this way: those people that you do let into your life, again, this goes beyond romantic relationships as well. Those people that you do let into your life, allow them to help you deconstruct those walls. Allow them to make you a better person. Again, because walls are defensive. It's a defensive posture. So the people that you do let in, allow them to help you see the best version of yourself. And that, I say you, but I'm thinking it in my mind. I'm like, yeah, take this advice yourself, Chelsea. So yeah, that's a process that I try to stay committed to. And actually, it's a process that I've recently embraced. Like I said, when I first started answering the question, this has taken well over 30 years to put that wall in place. And now it's time to start taking it down brick by brick. And each one of those bricks has a memory, has an instance, has an adjective or something that is associated with it. And I have to take those down one by one. And I think, you know, going back to another question, I said, you know, society puts, especially on women, and men too, now that I think about it, you know what I mean? You got to get the wife and kids or what have you, however your life plan is. We are on social time constraints. We are placed on that. That is placed on us. So when it comes to, you know, deconstructing that and how long that process takes, it could take a while. And for me personally, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to rub people the wrong way, and that's okay. I have come to terms with the idea and possibility that I could end up being alone for the rest of my life. And that is okay. That is A-okay, because I'm going to live it up. I think about it that way. I'm going to live it up. And if I find that Mr. Right, if I find that partner, that life partner that can accept me and I can accept them, fantastic. But I have come to terms with the fact that, yes, I could, you know, end up, you know, single for the rest of my life, and that is okay. No social standard is going to put me to that. No personal wall or somebody else's wall is going to, you know, stand in my way. I'm still going to live life and be fruitful with that. So I've kind of said no to those kind of constructs, but yeah, I'm still committed to deconstructing my wall.
Well, I have to think that it's not only you, Chelsea, just deconstructing the wall, but it's the person that you let into your life. They are going to, they're going to have to try to climb that wall, and they're going to have to try to climb over it because, you know, they need to be as much of it for them. And you put that wall up. And that's you. So, I mean, it's not all about, I don't think it's all about you letting your wall down. And I don't think it's all about me letting my wall down. But, and I do agree with you also, you know, I've been in like 3 or 4 long-term relationships. If I don't meet anybody else, I'm comfortable with it. I can live with it. But I promise you, you're going to find somebody.
Thanks a lot, guys. Those first 2 sections have been really awesome. Our next section is on thoughts and confidence and self-esteem. We've gone over a little bit on the first 2 sections, so if you're able to keep these answers a little bit more briefer, that would be great. And our first question goes to Jono. Jono, what does it mean to love yourself?
So, as what we've just said, I've just been making notes. The expectation thing, 100% right there with you. I am sick and tired of people or films of this expectation that when you get into your 30s, you're going to get married and you're going to have kids and you're going to get this and you're going to get that. That's bullshit. It really, really is. We're all on different paths, and sometimes we meet people, sometimes we don't. Another person does not depend, that your happiness does not depend on another person, and that is key. And I know up until my 20s, I pinned up that my happiness was going to come from getting married, having a family, and being in a relationship. And it's bullshit, and goes on to the next thing of loving myself. And over these past 10 years, I've really looked at myself. And yes, I have got walls so high. And I've also digged myself the bloody trench around that wall. And I've got myself in a bunker. But I promise you that there's times when you don't even need to let your walls down. You don't need to deconstruct them, because you will meet people that will just come in. Somehow it's like they've got a magic key. They can fly, or they've got an invisibility cape, or they can ghost through a wall and they'll come into that bunker with you. Friendships, relationships, and they don't actually do anything. They're just themselves, but they are in there with you, and it's incredible. And again, it goes back to the love yourself thing. And if we were talking about the broken heart as well, broken hearts suck, and feel it, cry, eat loads of ice cream. And again, if you're gonna, so I interpreted the rebound thing. When you go into a if your relationship ends and you're go on to the next one, that's a rebound relationship in my head, and you're kind of using that person to get over your ex. That's wrong. That's pretty crappy. So if you are brokenhearted and you're fooling around with someone, again, be honest. And again, that goes back to yourself and loving yourself and appreciating who you are and being happy with who you are. And it's a daily practice. Like, you go to the gym, you do yoga, you do meditation. I'm forever, my book's downstairs, I'm writing things, writing down feelings, writing how my week's gone, how my day's gone, things that I've learned about myself, things that I love about myself, things that I need to try. It is a daily practice. And I can promise you all, when I meet the next person or whatever my situation is at the moment, I have my standards, and I have things in my life that are unnegotiable. And somebody's going to be themselves and be ready for that adventure with me. But yeah, my happiness doesn't depend on that. And I know I've kind of skipped over a lot of topics there, but they all kind of link into one. So I just hope I kind of explained that.
Yeah. Chelsea, what are some things that communicate confidence?
Confidence. Okay, well, confidence could be like, well, I've got a Zoom date, or I've got a socially distant date. I haven't put on this outfit in a while. I wonder if it still fits. Making sure that you feel good in your threads. You know what I mean? I think that can exude confidence. Investing in yourself exudes confidence. You know, be willing to share your opinion on things that come up in conversation, whether it's personal friendships or romantic relationships. Being able to speak your mind, that's another form of confidence. But yeah, I think confidence comes in many forms and many colors. So I think the best thing to do is just find your strengths, and kind of like what Kara was saying earlier, these dating profiles, they make you think, probably for me a little too much. But they make you think about yourself, and they ask you the questions, and they kind of like make you think, okay, well, am I funny? Yeah, I'm funny. Let's go for it. You know, like embrace those kinds of things. So when you really truly know yourself, I think that's a whole form of confidence that needs to be embraced.
Absolutely. how do you ask and how do you ask to keep asking for consent confidence?
The consent issue is a huge one for me, and asking confidently is also difficult as well. Consent is so important. I don't want anyone to be, from like meeting someone through being in a relationship with them, like I want, your body is your body, and whatever it is, it may be like, do you want to go and do X, Y, or Z, and it may not fit within your values, so you say no. And if the person persists, you say no again. And the same thing is true with kissing, any form of touch. Just be persistent and consistent with that. Say no, I don't want to do that, because it doesn't make me feel, comfortable, or I don't feel safe. Just consistent and persistent, and keep up with it. Consent is such an important thing for women, especially for men, for all of us. It is just vital, because no one should do anything they do not want to do. It's such an important thing. As a person with a facial difference, I have done things I have not wanted to do. And I do not want anyone that is listening within earshot of me right now to do anything that if their body is saying no, if their mouth is saying no, if their mind is saying no, then it's a no, okay? Do not do it. Don't. Thanks.
Sarah, I like that phrase you said, consistently and persistently. And our next question goes to Tim. And Tim, how do you make sure that you don't settle in relationships?
Well, I think that the best way not to settle is to make sure you're not getting into a relationship with somebody just because you don't think that you can find somebody else. You can never settle for abuse or have somebody who does things that you don't like, because, if you can't find somebody else, live with yourself, but never let down your values. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. We're moving on to our last section before the Q&A time. Our last section is how to develop a healthy relationship. And Tim, we're going to start with you. So we decided to meet this person from online. Where do you go, and what things do you do and talk about on the first 2 or 3 dates?
Well, the first date, I'm going to go someplace and I'm going to talk, because I'm an expert at talking to people through text or even talking to people online. But when it actually comes to meeting somebody face to face, it's really important to see if you have that same type of chemistry that you do online. Most of the time anymore, I do, but sometimes, I either open mouth and short foot, or I don't know what to say. So the first day is about communication. The second day is, is to do something fun, something that we both enjoy. I will always be a kid at heart, so I like to go shoot pool or go kart racing or something like that. I have Manyfacesofmoebiussyndrome syndrome, but I can't smile, but I sure as hell can laugh. And that's what I like to do, is I like to go out and I like to laugh and I like to have fun. And I laugh at myself a lot. The third date would probably be a 1-minute lunch or a 1-minute dinner, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. Jono, when is it appropriate to become physically intimate for you? How do you determine if you're needing for sex or to develop something more?
So if you're doing this online, you can set your profile up for relationship, seriousness, or something more casual. You can be very clear about that on the profile itself. When you're meeting people out and about, for me, I am having conversations. If I've just come out of a relationship, I'm saying that if I'm saying, oh, I'm not in the right place for a relationship. Because when we talk about dating or finding a relationship, it's bloody hard work. And you've really got to be mentally prepared, because at times it's draining. You're opening yourself up and you're putting your heart out there, and you're going to this person, be delicate with my heart. I hope you like this. And if it gets trodden on, or if it gets abused, that's a hard thing for us to recover from. And sometimes we're not emotionally in the right place for anything more than something more physical. But then if you really, really like this person and you've done your go-karting and everything, and you want to take it at a slower pace, say that I want to take my time, I want to wait. And, there's been that in my experience, the longer you wait as well, when it does happen, it's even more fireworks, so to say. So, it's what works for you in that moment. There is not one answer that answers it all. It's what's right for you, and as Kara's just said, when we're talking about consent, that's huge. And again, I've stupidly done things that I didn't necessarily want to do, but at the time I felt like I needed to please my partner, and again, that's not acceptable. So it's all about talk to your girlfriends, your boyfriend, your family, and if you do need a little bit of support and a little bit of backup, and if you don't think it's right, again, talk about it to somebody who you can trust. So yeah.
Communication is the absolute most important thing, especially if you're talking about getting into a relationship and having sex. You can't really depend on body language. I really, 100%. You gotta talk to people.
Chelsea, would you guys like to give a female perspective?
It depends. For me, that's something I need to work on, to be honest. To be brutally honest with you, that is something I need to work on, because it goes back to what I said about consent. I lead with that. I lead with my body because I have control over everything from the neck down. I am in good shape. I eat right. I take care of myself. And it is the thing that gets me in the most trouble. I need to spend that 2 or 3 or 4 dates getting to know someone, and I'm not doing that. So that's me being brutally honest with you and the world. It's something I need to work on, because I know that I want something. If I want something more full and real and actualized, I can't lead with the physical. I just can't. So I'm a work in progress. Gonna keep saying that. Thank you.
Cara, to talk so openly about that to people who are watching, and that's something. And thank you for sharing that. I touched on a few things when I was younger, 18, 19, 20, back to the time where I hated my face, and my drug was sex, and that was, if anybody found me sexually attractive, I was all over that, and that was something that gave me so much confidence, but it was such a short fix. And yeah, the morning after, I felt so low and horrible, and thankfully I've moved on from that, whereas I enjoy sex now. But yeah,
it's a big issue for me still. It's still a thing, and a thing I'm working on, and it's just so hard. It's so hard. It really is. So, and it's frustrating, but and I'm trying to determine, like, okay, am I like sex addict, or am I like a section 11 addict, or am I codependent, or what am I, how can I work on myself? So like I have that part of my brain that knows that what I'm doing is wrong, and so how then can I correct it and be better to myself? I'm trying to figure all those things out.
And this, I'm sure, I hope that you will take something from this, and this will, and I don't know, not help. I hope you can take something away from this conversation that we're having. I really, really do. And if you ever want to talk some more about it with myself, I'm always a phone call away. Yeah.
Thanks, Jono.
This next question goes to Kara. So Kara, what are some red flags we should look out for in the first few dates, the first few weeks of dating?
I think I've established that I see those red flags, and I think there's a parade going on. So there's that. That's just me being funny and self-deprecating because it's needed right now. Yeah, red flags are tough, and I think I always try to see the best in people, and I hope that they will change, and a lot of times they don't want to do that. So it's a tough thing. Red flags, poor treatment of me, poor treatment of other people. So that's why I gave the example way back a while ago about how are people treating like service people at a restaurant, or how are people treating your bartender. That's really important to me because that's how you treat everyone. I think other red flags are drug use. Other red flags are things that fall outside of your particular value system. So if church, for instance, is important to you, or your faith or your church or whatever is important, then a person that doesn't go to church isn't going to work. I was on I went on a couple of dates with somebody in August, and he was affiliated with a political party that I'm not interested in, and don't approve of the views of. And so that was a deal breaker for me. I'm very politically savvy. I know my stuff, have always had an interest in that, and that was, a problem. Same thing with religion. I'm not really big into religion, so that's not. So while those aren't necessarily huge red flags, I mean, I think the obvious things are the things that fall, if it doesn't fall within your value system and the things that you hold dear. And the other question that always comes up for me too is can I bring this person home to my family? Or can I bring this person home to my friends and whatever else? And if the answer is no, then it's probably a no for you too. So thanks.
I mean, your partner is your biggest investment in your life. I mean, people work so hard to save, and we look at what we can invest in, and we do overtime. But the truth is, our life partner is our biggest investment, and we really need to have all the red flags out and be really tuning in. And if we don't like anything, something that we spoke about, ending a relationship, walk away and being firm with that. And again, it is okay to be on our own. Just having the confidence to go through with that and not ignoring those red flags. Because when we want a little bit of intimacy, when we want some comfort, when we don't want to be alone, sometimes we ignore the red flags. And that's a very tough place to be as well.
One thing I'd like to add to that about red flags, and Kayla was talking about how they treat the bartender and things like that. But one thing that I like to try to watch is how do people treat the maintenance people cleaning up the bathrooms, or the people on the street picking up the trash. Because if I even get a sense that somebody is going to judge somebody for what they do, that is a big red flag for me. And it's also, if they're going to look down on somebody else and treat that person that way. Once you get into a relationship with them, if you do something that they don't like, that they think is below them, they're going to treat you the same way. So you really have to watch out for that.
The next question is for Chelsea. Chelsea, how do you separate infatuation from working towards a lasting relationship?
Well, any relationship requires work, varying levels, varying commitments, constants, all of that kind of thing. It's a work. We are all in work in progress, and our relationships are works in progress. But when we have new relationships, just like a shiny new penny or a brand new car, over time they get tarnished. Over time, there's more maintenance that's required on the car. So that's kind of like a testament. Yes, it's shiny and bright and new, but how do we keep that up? How do we keep those things in good standing? And that is just investing in the relationship and making sure that you as two partners are making realistic goals, contributing equally. Because again, when it's good. But how do we keep it good? How do we keep that flame? How do we keep that spark? How do we keep the power construct, in balance, or however you want to view it. So yeah, it's making sure that you're equally putting in the work, that you're kind of saying no. Again, we've talked about it. I've mentioned it several times throughout the night, like social constructs of what you're supposed to do and what society says you're supposed to do in regards to your relationships. A plus B equals this in regards to relationships. And figuring out what works best for you and your partner, because not all relationships are created equal. All of us come from different paths. We are in the process of walking our own journeys, and so it's not a straight path, and so it's twists and turns, ups and downs, and an infatuation and obsession would just be a straight shot from point A to point B, and let's be honest, that's not very interesting, and that's the easy way out. So yeah, I think, having those realistic views, saying no to, social standards and things that are thrust upon us as humans, and seeing a relationship as a two-way street and remaining committed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Tim, what makes a lasting relationship and how do you foster it?
Honesty, communications, and willing to change and grow together. Honesty, I think that's, a gimme. There's no honesty, there's no trust. Communication is something that every relationship needs. If you don't have communication, you don't know what the other partner is thinking. But, if you're in a relationship for 3, 4, 5 years, a lot of things change, and you and your partner have to be willing to change with it, and you have to be willing to grow together. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge for me, is to continue growing, with somebody and not letting the changes sway you off on the wrong track.
Jono, what are some healthy boundaries for people who are entering a relationship for the first time or maybe entering into a new relationship after being in a relationship for a while?
I think Chelsea hit the nail on the head when it comes to new relationships and moving on with them at your own pace. A new relationship is brilliant and is exciting. But I think it's always important that we check in with ourselves, and I think we've spoken about it all night. We go at our own pace and we think about when it's right for us. And again, Tim just said, communication's key. It's all those factors that we've just discussed this evening. Communicating, consenting, going at your own pace, making sure your feels and your heart's at the right place. Be honest with that other person and to yourself on how we want this relationship to go. It might move on and be something incredible, and it might fizzle out, and again, that's okay as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Jono. And the last question of this section before we move into the Q&A time is for Kara. Kara, what are some signs you know a relationship is working for both people?
I would say I'm gonna try and keep this brief so we can open up to audience questions. But I think if things are going well for both people, they're both happy. They both are on the same page about similar about what their goals are together as a couple, and they're honest, and the communication about things is strong. This is, you know, not necessarily something I have had that in the past, like a long time ago, but it's not something I have right now, and it's tough. So, but I think it's just making sure that you both are walking through life together, and there are no secrets, and there are no lies, and there's honesty, and there's an X factor in the air too. Like there's just like the air is supercharged almost, because you both feel so good together. You shouldn't have any concerns and worries. Yes, life is going to be tough together, and yes, it takes work to make things work together as a couple, but you know, there should be there should be ways in which, and you should both have the tools to talk about what those issues are as adults and work through them, whatever it is. Anything and everything should be discussed that can be. And if you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, bring in other people, talk to friends, lean on your support groups and figure out what it is that you need to do differently. But being in love is amazing. It's the greatest feeling in the world, and so long as the other person is on that same page, then you'll both be feeling that same thing together, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Kelly's exactly right. When it works, and it is terrific.
Thank you guys so much. What an amazing discussion. We're now going to move into our Q&A time. I do have a couple questions that were sent to me previously, so I'm going to start with those, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to ask questions. So some of these we covered a little bit, but if anyone wants to give another answer or elaborate, feel free to do so. The first question I have is, how do you get over a relationship? And what tips would you give someone to deal with after a breakup?
Time. If you didn't hear me the first time, time. Yes, we love that good feeling of being in a relationship, being loved, being, you know, involved with someone. But when, you know, for me, I had an instance where I had a long time relationship and it ended because we got to that kid question and we did not see eye to eye. And so we had to part our ways, and that was a long haul relationship. And I gave myself, and surprisingly, this other person as well, he gave himself time too. We needed to heal. We needed to invest in ourselves, kind of reassess where we were in that stage of life, and yeah, took the time to heal.
Yeah, 100%. I was in a relationship for 9 years, and when that relationship, we decided to go our separate ways. I spent just over a year on my own. I needed that time, and there's no set time. Sometime one day, you know, you'll hear a song and you'll just cry over that person. Month or a year down the line, you'll hear that same song and you'll start dancing again and you'll start singing. Time, yeah.
Yeah, I think self-care is important. I know everyone, it's like such a big, huge buzzword, but just really investing, doing the hard work of self-care. Like not all self-care is just like bubble baths, tea, and like music. I think doing the hard work of looking at yourself, trying to figure out what it was that you contributed, what hurt you about the other person, what was it, to really improve yourself for either your next adventure or to really use the time. The idea is to really use the time wisely. Yes, take the time, but don't be intentional about what it is and how you want to get better. Like going back to what Jono said about journaling and writing and his meditation practice, which sounds very similar to mine, like just really working through and writing down, or however it is that you process information and thoughts and feelings and behaviors as well. Take a really good look at yourself. It's hard, but it's worth it.
Thanks so much. This next question, I'm going to ask one of you guys to answer it. It's tips for how to tell someone why you look this way. Do I tell them before the first date?
Absolutely. Because, that's just being honest. You don't tell somebody about your looks or your speech, and then they meet you, they're going to be like, okay, what else are you hiding from me? I didn't do this at first, but, after I had quite a few dates, I finally met a lady, and she told me she was 41 years old, and she turned out to be about 75 years old. And I was very polite to her. I actually took her to the movies, and I took her out. But I didn't like the fact that she wasn't honest with me. So it made me think, if she's not being honest with me, and it makes me feel this way, what do others think when I'm not being honest with them? And, my theory is absolutely tell them.
I think this question's very personal, and every single person would potentially answer this question, because what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. I actually don't remember the last day I went on and I actually spoke about my face. I never put it on my social media, my dating apps. It was just something that never came up. But there's also been times in my life when I have freaked out, and I'm like, oh crap, when do I talk about my face? When do I talk about the fact that I may pass on this my condition to my child? Do I do it on the first date or the second date and then freak them out and like, oh my God, he's thinking about kids already? Or do I let them fall in love with me and then I drop this bombshell on them? Like, oh my God, when do I tell them? That was a bigger issue to me, not necessarily about my face. It was the kid thing. And I overthought about it so much. And then as I've got older and I've started dating more and I've started being more open and talking about things, I dated a girl last year and we were talking about kids and she's like, I hate kids. I don't want to have kids. And I was like, oh my God. Well, I was going to give all this spiel about me passing on my genetic condition to our children. And she was like, yeah, I hate kids. I don't want to have kids. And I was like, oh, phew. And so there's so many people that are just like in the same situation and we're just talking. And then the girl who I had the Chinese with on Saturday, and I started talking about Treacher Collins and my face. She was like, I don't care, it's just a face, isn't it? And I was like, oh, right, okay. So again, different people, different situations. And there's other people as well who you do meet. They've got loads of things that they're not so forward about, and they might be a little bit shy and a little bit private about. So I definitely encourage talking about it and being open about it, transparent about it. But again, when is the right time? I definitely think that's a personal thing.
Yeah. So just to kind of bridge both of those viewpoints, I think you can disclose, but don't over explain. I think when I was early dating, and I'm thinking about a very specific instance, like I said that like right away within like half an hour of meeting this poor guy, and I, it was just like, what? Like, And it was just this look of bewilderment, like, why are you telling me you have a cleft lip and palate? Like, what? Like, what is that? Like, and most of the time I get like, what is that? Like, why are we talking about this? So I think, I mean, if you do choose to disclose and you are one of those people that wants to, great. Keep it short and sweet. Don't like over explain and then like do the whole anatomical like description of what it is that you know, what condition you have or what your medical issues are. Like, people, especially right away, don't want to know that stuff. It's a little too much for a first, second, or even a third date, in my opinion. But I do think there's value in owning who you are. There is. If you're one of those people, by all means, go for it. It's not my jam. It's not my thing. I think I after that one bad experience, and he was absolutely gorgeous. He was a 10. He was a 15 out of 10. He was just, he was perfect. And I was just so green. So what did I know? But, so yeah, that was, thankfully a long time ago. So thanks.
How do you know you can trust someone to be your life partner? And I've asked the panel that I could speak into this. So I've been married to my wife now for 14 years. And when we first started dating, she was really the first person I ever really dated. And I was coming from a lot of mistrust because I liked girls and they didn't like me back, and I took it really personally. And also, in my senior year of college, I liked a girl who really led me on. Like, she said, I want to date you. Then she broke it off. And then she kept on flirting with me. So by the time I started dating my wife, I had no trust. So she said, I love you for you. I had a hard time believing that. And it took me a long time to really work through that. And when it comes to finding a life partner, I think one key ingredient you have to have is you have to have trust. You have to have someone who you can trust, and you have to be a person that's trustworthy. The other thing is you need to find someone who you can totally be yourself with. If you have to pretend at all to be someone differently, it's probably not a person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. But I think trust is a super key ingredient for finding someone that can potentially be your life partner. Anybody else want to speak into this?
I think you worded that very well, mate. If you're hiding any part of yourself around somebody, I think that's a red flag. And I think the right person, you'll be able to share it all, and they'll love you even more. They'll be even more attracted to you. That, you know, fancy the pants off you when you were a bit silly and a little bit daft or clumsy. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with.
Okay, 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐥𝐝, I'm going to open this up to you and to see if there's anybody who wants to ask the questions live.
For me, I have exes that are still friends, and I have exes that have completely blocked me in all aspects of life. So I guess it depends who you are. Some you might have to walk away for a few months to get that closure, and then you might be able to continue your friendship. Some you might need to walk away from permanently. So again, I think, yeah, in my personal experience, it depends on the other person and who you are and that relationship between those two people.
And I think also to kind of tag on to that, if that person, even though you have left the relationship romantically, if they bring positive energy into your life, that's okay. That's good. I've had exes where I'm friends with them. I'm friends with their family. We still talk, but we have no romantic interest in each other whatsoever. But it's a case by case. It's a comfort level. And of course, if it's an abusive situation, it's to your discretion. But you you know, you have to do what's best for you. And ultimately, if you're in that situation, what keeps you safe and those around you safe.
Yeah, I can't say enough because of you did mention abuse, and I did talk about consent earlier, and I'm really big on this. Like, that's a no. Like, if the person is abusive to you, or you feel icky inside, or even if you don't quite label it as abuse, but you feel in some way marginalized or hurt or sad or any kind of negative emotions, that person needs to not be in your life. And you need to also, you know, really lean into your support system and talk to family, friends, whoever, you know, is helpful to you to really keep that person from coming back into your life, or you from going back into theirs. And it may be more likely that it's the latter than it is the former. It's hard. It's a tough thing.
So I'm probably the oldest person on the panel, so my views might be a little bit different. But I think if you get abused by somebody, you know, it's great to want to be their friend, but it's the perfect opportunity to let the abuse come back. So, I mean, I think if somebody abuses you, you should definitely let them go.
Questions from the audience?
Yes, I had one come in privately that I'm going to go ahead and read out. It says, what advice do you give someone like me, age 26, looking into entering the next life chapter of wanting to start jumping on the bandwagon to finding a companion? Not just Mr. Right, but more friendship.
I was talking to my therapist yesterday, and the first thing she said one of the things she said to me was, you need to accept yourself, Kara. You need self-acceptance. I think I have some self-confidence. I have self-awareness. I don't have the self-acceptance. So I really would want and advise you to double down on really accepting yourself, because that's the baseline. That's the foundation upon which self-love is built. That's the foundation upon which everything is built. And really finding the right people to hang out with platonically as well as romantically. Quarter life crisis, 25 going on 26. I would just try and just go meet as many people as you can. Obviously right now, not a great time for that. Just get out there and see how things feel, and what your confidence level is, and also at the same time concurrently really be doing that inner work of what it is that I want. What do you want? Keep asking yourself that question. That's the question I have to keep asking myself. 41 years old, not nearly as wish I was more self-aware in that sense. What do I want? What do I want? Because I'm so easily swayed. So really double down, write down, and make it clear on paper and in your own mind what you want and what you want from the other person, and the other people in your life, romantically and platonically, so that you can have a really full and amazing life. That's my advice. Thank you.
Yeah, that was brilliantly put, Cara, and something that I've touched on these past 5 years. You know, I've looked at acceptance, and it's evolved into self-love, and it's something that I really work on now. And then this past 5 years, this self-love has taken me all over the world, and I have met so many strangers in so many weird, random places, and friendships, relationships have blossomed. Some have remained in my life, and some have just been very, very temporary. Friendships, opportunity, and it's all come from that acceptance, all come from that self-love. And I feel very blessed and to be in a place now where, you know, we were talking about, we may be on our own, we may not have a life partner, and that is perfectly amazing and beautiful in itself. I may end up getting a bunch of cats or a dog, you know, who knows? But my happiness does not depend on another. and you know, I'll continue on this road, and I'll continue to share all that I am. And yeah, I feel very blessed and lucky to be at this point in my life now. And I know there's others on the panel and listening to that aren't quite there, and it is a journey. So keep on exploring, keep on introducing yourself to people, keep on smiling, keep on picking up on those red flags. Yeah.
And to add on to that, remain committed to the work that Kara and Jono have just put on the table, and reframe it as, okay, we're not getting ready to start the next chapter, but setting yourself up for success in the many chapters that you will write after this next one. If you do the grit work now at 26, if I could go back and tell myself something like that, that'd be awesome. But if you do that grit work, if you do that self-exploration, if you keep checking in with yourself, that will not just set you up for the next chapter, but the many that are to come. Because, you know, the only given in life is what? Death and taxes, right? So we've got many roads that we're going to go on. So keep framing it that way. Don't just think of it as a finality of one chapter, but many more to come.
And as well, I think, again, brilliantly put, our chapters aren't better and better and better, and as we get older, things are going to get easier and more successful. Hell, next week, I might do this panel and have a completely different outlook. Love sucks, and women are the devil, and I am never, yeah, you know, we're all, yeah, it is up and down, and right now I'm in a good place, but next week I might not be in a good place, and that is perfectly okay. And so I think we definitely need to acknowledge that and feel that as well. Yeah.
I do have an additional question. It says, how do you approach the topic of virginity or lack of relationship experience when an adult at an age that is expected to have experience? For me, it goes back to that expectations. I am sick and tired of this world throwing these expectations down our throats that people are supposed to have sex at a certain age, people are getting married at a certain age, people are supposed to have children. I hate it, and it's wrong, and it's not helpful for any of us. Every single one of us on this panel have had sex at different ages, and that's perfectly all right. Yeah, I hated the first time I had sex, and I wish it hadn't have gone out the way it went, but it did. So a lot of the things that we've spoken about today, I would love to have done my first time when I was ready, and when I wanted to, not through more peer pressure. And I hope the world supports the younger generation when it comes to talking about sex, and when the time's right, that they're able to do it when they're ready, not what's expected of them. Because again, there is nothing expected when it comes to sex and giving ourselves to somebody. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was a late bloomer, I guess you could say, but definitely made up for lost time. So you could say that too. But at the same time, I think, you know, just the right person is going to be there for you in that moment. And if it's the wrong person, you'll know, because the right person is going to be patient, kind, and be willing to shepherd you through that process. The right person is going to meet you where you are. And if it's not the right person, then that person is not going to meet you where you are, and they're the wrong person. So that is going to help you. That's going to be an asset to you, because that's going to be one of the things that's going to be, it's going to tell you, like, okay, this is the right person, or no, this is not the right person. It's going to be very clear. A person that's patient and kind is the right person. Otherwise, it's just, it's very binary.
It also goes back to your values. If that is something that you hold dear and it's something that is a commitment that you've made in life, and someone is not willing to meet you there or help you through that process, or not willing to, you know, talk about it, then that person is not for you. Again, it goes back to Kara, what she was saying earlier about what you value, and if that is something that you value, then hold true to that, and you do you. Don't worry about anybody else. If they can't see the value in that and how you view it, move on. Definitely.
And we can be intimate in so many different ways. Intimacy is so much more than physical. And that's something that we really, I 100% believe in. Being intimate with somebody without touch is just an incredible feeling. So yeah, you can connect in other ways as well. Sorry, Tim.
No problem. I was going to say, be proud of who you are. And if somebody doesn't like you for the fact that you haven't been sexual, or somebody wants to pursue you into something else, just move on and find somebody better. But I think it's awesome.
Awesome. I have 2 questions. I'm going to go ahead and read them both off. So the first one is it good to have standards or boundaries, or do you not have boundaries in a relationship? And then the second question is it better to find a date online or in person?
Just quickly, I'll get the easier one. Online or in person. I've had amazing dates online, and I've had amazing dates in person, and I've had some crappy dates from online and crappy dates from in person. There's honestly there's no answer to that. We all have bad dates. We all have amazing dates. It's whatever you feel safe and comfortable with when it comes to them too. What was the other question, 𝐂𝐤?
So the other question was about having standards and boundaries within a relationship. Do you go in with those standards and boundaries, or do you kind of go in open-minded without them, I guess?
Does anybody want to?
Yeah, I think that's a process of negotiation. Like, you obviously you're going to have your values and your non-negotiables. You're going to have your, definitely no's and some things that you're willing to negotiate on. And it's just a matter of talking through with that person those things that fall on the list of things that you are willing to negotiate on. The things that are non-negotiable, you'll know because you'll have that list, and they will stay on that list, and they will forever be on that list. So if someone's abusive to me, or yells or screams or hurts me, that's a hard no for me. That's a no way, never gonna happen with me kind of thing. While as other things I can negotiate them and figure out, okay, well, maybe in this context, we can work something out. So there is a dance there. There's a dance there that can be done between the two of you, because I'm sure that there may be some things that the other person wants to, kind of change a little bit. So, or may want to negotiate with you. So there's just something to think about.
And I think two people, when they connect, they kind of naturally create an environment and a culture that is unique to them. And another two people will have a completely different environment and culture. You just try and make sure that environment is safe, allows us to grow, allows us to be the badasses who we are and who we want to be. We feel safe. We're not walking on eggshells. If we want to be quiet, we can be quiet. If we want to be loud, we can be loud. So when two people do get together, it naturally creates some sort of environment and culture. And again, you just make sure that that is a safe place for you. I think that's really important.
Will, that is all the questions that I have on my end.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for attending tonight's session. Dating is a very important and often delicate topic. One thing that I would like to reemphasize is confidence. Before we can meet someone else, we have to have confidence in who we are, in ourselves. Confidence and trust are two very important ingredients in dating. Never, and let me reemphasize that again, never be ashamed of who you are. On behalf of the panel and myself, have a great evening.